students, welcome to another class. Title of the class, Live from Inside Life's Mystery. Today, I'll be talking about right mindfulness, the seventh factor on the Eightfold Path. Let's start with the story. Dr. James S. Dale was a Scottish surgeon who practiced his skill in Bengal, northeast India, in the 1840s. At the time when he was chopping up people, there was no ether, no anesthesia to put people down during surgery. Nope. And yet, between 1843 and 1846, he performed 400 major surgeries. Brilliant stuff. Cancerous growths, removal of tumors, amputations. He worked on people's faces, eyes, nose, ears, throat, wherever. 400 major surgeries. No anesthesia. But he did have a secret of how he did it. He utilized mental anesthesia, which we know as hypnosis. Yep. Hypnotize his patients. And under hypnosis, none of his patients felt any pain during the surgery. And not one of them died during surgery. Brilliant stuff. Yes, there was a little bit mortality after the surgery, a few months later. But that's not because of the surgery. It's because of other complications. Yeah? When S. Dale suggested to his patients before the operation that there would be no septic conditions or infections, the unconscious mind of those beings went into full swing and made sure that they would be protected from any contagion. No infections, no septic conditions, they were fine, totally fine. Can you imagine that? What's really remarkable about this story, or Brother James's experiences over there, is that the persuasiveness of his suggestions relied strongly upon the lowly status of his patients. Yep, most of whom, 99% of them, most of whom were Indians. Lowly status. Most being prisoners, peasants, or other members of the socially deprived class. Yeah? Simple folks. Being simple, they did not allow their intellect to interfere with Dr. James's suggestions. They were simple folks, full of faith, trusted in this white doctor. And in that trust, full faith in the doctor, they were able to open their heart and mind to live from within life's mysteries. Brilliant stuff. Now, another amazing fact here is that rarely did any high caste Indian or member of the European community benefit from Brother James's skills. Why? They never went under his knife. They went to other hospitals where they died and had pain and suffering and so forth. But they wouldn't go to Brother James's. Why? Too much intellect, too much prejudice and opinions, too much prejudice, too many opinions, all based on a fictitious reality that they were subscribing to. Crazy. The thing is, most people are like those high caste Indians and those members of the European community, most beings. Why? Because most beings are aware of spiritual giants like the Buddha, Christ, and so on. They're aware of people who've made enormous strides in their life through being spiritually awake. And yet, even though they see their examples, they're just not interested in putting in the effort to live an exemplary life. Once again, why? Prejudices and opinions. I can't. It's so difficult. It's not possible. We live in the realm of the absurd. We see that spiritual practice does work, and it works brilliantly. And yet, we're not willing to put in the time and the effort towards being spiritually awake. So we're rather crazy. Okay, let's get on to this class. Mindfulness. How often do you marvel at life's incredible miracles that are blossoming all around you 24/7? It's mysteries, it's amazing frequencies. How often do you marvel at that? Do you even recognize it? Do you ever marvel at how serendipities arise? Those chance occurrences. Do you ever wonder how ESP is possible? Extrasensory perception. Yeah? Or do you just, doesn't matter, you're busy making money, busy going on shopping sprees? This mystical dimension to life needs to be explored. Because if we do not explore it, if we're not open to it, we continue to live in our birthdays, in the zombie forest, hugging those trees during full moon nights. Not very fulfilling. Right. How do you define life's mystical dimension? How do you define it? How do you understand it? What is it? Life's mystical dimension is not beyond the reach of our knowing. Oh, it's so mystical, I can't know it. No, it's not beyond the reach of our knowing, because it lies in the realm of endless knowability. Knowability. But only for those who cultivate the appropriate consciousness for knowing it. Not for the general masses who live in zombie mode. Yeah? Life's mystical dimension, imperative for us to penetrate it, to tap into it. It's not a realm that's beyond our reach, because in that realm is true knowing. In this realm that we live in, we're living in a world of illusion. Wakey, wakey! Yeah? It's the realm where true understanding, true reality is sparkling in its splendor. But only for those who cultivate the appropriate consciousness. Only these guys can unveil life's secrets, supersonic ones. You see, the thing is, being intuitively attuned to this endless knowability. So much to understand, so much to grasp, so much to wake up to. Being intuitively attuned to this endless knowability offers us a solid, unshakable foundation in ultimate flourishing. Ultimate on all levels of our being. Yeah? Immeasurable love. Yum, yum. And eternal refuge. Eternal refuge. What does that mean? Eternal refuge? Master B, what is it? Once we tap into even just a tiny glimmer of reality through an insight, poof, we are held. Eternal refuge. Lifetime after lifetime, we are protected, we are guided, we are provided for in uncanny ways, and of course, we are prospered. Yummy, yummy, true flourishing. Eternal refuge. That's why we practice the Dhamma. To tap into the realm where true joy and love and flourishing resides. It's not in gold coins. It's not in a big house or your Ferrari. No, there's no refuge. There's no prospering in that. There's prospering in a refined mind, a refined consciousness. There's no other prospering. This attunement to this endless knowability can never be fathomed by the intellect or through any explanation, no matter how elaborate. Why is that? Because direct, lived experience, as in an awakening, as in an insight, yeah, direct lived experience can never be fathomed by the everyday mind. Forget insights. Just a direct lived experience cannot be elaborated through verbal exchange. If I tell you I love someone, how do you understand that? Oh, we love someone. Do you know the intricacies of that love? No, you just know the words. If I have a fruit, exotic fruit, yum, yum, and I tell you about it, oh, I ate this fruit, but you have never tasted it. How do I get that taste to register in your consciousness if you've never tasted it? Not possible. Yeah. Therefore, even though the intellect has its functions, even though explanations are useful at times, they can never come even close to knowing the direct vast revelation of reality, which happens when we are tapped into life's mystical dimensions. Let me give you an example. One of my students, we were having lunch together, and she had not had a boyfriend for a long time. Desperate. So during lunch, she says to me, Ram, I finally found the guy I'm going to marry. Really? Yeah, yeah. He's so amazing. So I said to her, I'm really happy for you. Do you have a photograph? And she said, yeah, actually I do. And she got it out of her purse and she showed it to me. Took me 3 seconds. Direct revelation of the reality. I said to her, my dear, enjoy the relationship, but I would suggest you don't get serious about it. He's not the guy for you. She was shocked. What? You don't even know him. You've not even met him. How can you say that? Just from the photo, I can tell you, it's not going to work. Trust me. Enjoy yourself. But do not think about marriage. No, how can you? Well, we had our lunch, but she left not in a happy state because I was too arrogant. A few months later, I heard that she had a breakup with this fellow, and it was a rather bitter breakup. Man, she was going to marry. I could see it in 3 seconds. She couldn't. She knew the guy. She was with the fellow, but she couldn't see it. Not within the right consciousness. And there was another reality. All three are examples of women. So sorry. She said to me over the phone this time, I finally found the guy that I'm going to marry. Oh, he's brilliant. Really? Okay. Brilliant. Very good. Very good. I'm so happy for you. What is his name? His name is such and such. As soon as I heard his name, I felt this gut feeling in my belly. No, 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 no. Listen, maybe you should not think of marriage right now. Just get to know him better before you think that, go down that road. You don't even know him. You've never even met him. Yes, I understand, but I'm just cautioning you, not the right person for marriage. You don't speak rubbish. I cautioned her 3 times. Don't do it. If you ever say this again, I will never speak to you again. Okay, honey, fine. Get my mouth zipped. Even before marriage, she knew she had made the wrong choice. And yet she went ahead with the marriage. Bitter divorce lasted over 12 years. 12 years of bitter divorce. Terrible. I cannot describe to you the gut feeling I had that this was really not a good guy. Although he looked, when I met him, oh, he was polished and so forth. Handsome, big. But deception, illusions. Then there was this other situation. I found the guy I'm going to marry. This time, personal. So great. Do you have a photo? Nope. Okay. What's his name? All right. She said, I do have a recording. I heard the name. It didn't click with me so much, the name. But when I heard the recording, when I heard his voice, I said to her, not a good choice. Not a good choice. Did she listen to me? Did any of them listen to me? Nope. She went ahead and married him. 20 years later, I get the news that the marriage failed. Hallelujah. Crazy. Yeah. Life's mystical dimensions. We need to learn how to be intuitively in touch with these dimensions because that's where the true knowing resides. Our senses are highly deceptive. They do not give us an accurate picture of the world. Intellect, emotions, everyday emotions, they do not give us an accurate picture of the world. We have to tap into life's mystical dimensions, and it requires acute mindfulness in the way we live. Without that mindfulness, no refinement of consciousness, no can do. Get the picture? Okay. So the next question is, how do you define a mystic? What is a mystic? Those who have firmly established a palpable, tangible relationship with the source of their being, which is also the source of true, deep, profound knowability, because they realize that it is the only salvation in a world teeming with illusions, challenges, and fiascos. That's a mystic. Once again, what is the definition of mystic? A mystic is someone who has established, yeah, a palpable relationship with the source of their being. Call it God, call it whatever. Because this source of their being is also the source of vast, eternal knowability, total awakening. Yeah. And why have they established this firm foundation, this firm relationship? Because they realize it is their only salvation in a world brimming with, teeming with, engulfed in illusions, challenges, and fiascos. There is no refuge in money. There is no refuge in worldly power, name, and fame. There is no salvation there. The salvation comes from a mind that is in tune with universal forces, its mystical dimension. There is no other refuge. None. Got it? Now, the way of the mystic is the way of uncompromising surrender. Surrender of what? Your wallet? Your shopping sprees? No. Surrender of our prejudices and opinions that are rooted in a faulty worldview. Why do we need to surrender these faulty opinions? The wise tell us that a life that could have been but never was is essentially a wasted life. A life that could have been but never was, never really got there, is really essentially a wasted life. Such wasteful living comes from clinging to a faulty worldview. A faulty worldview breeds prejudices and opinions that have nothing to do with reality. Nothing. Yeah. So, this uncompromising surrender is absolutely essential if we are going to tap into life's mystical dimensions. We can't tap into them with a faulty worldview. Look at mysticism. Yeah, mystics. There are the mystics and there are those who are mistaken. You don't want to be in that group. You want to be in this group. Mystics or mistaken. No, no. Mysticism is basically right mindfulness. Right mindfulness at its best because it requires an acutely sensitive mind to tap into this dimension. Not a scattered mind, not a wishy-washy mind, acute sensitivity to knowing true from false, skillful from unskillful, wholesome from unwholesome. We require right mindfulness. Yeah, because right mindfulness is the way into mysticism. It is the very root of, the very foundation for a spiritual awakening. Such extraordinary mindfulness is basically the outcome of a relentless pursuit towards discovering the true nature of reality in its infinite glory, sparkling in its infinite glory, relentless pursuit. Such mindfulness doesn't arise from a wishy-washy practice, relentless pursuit. What does that mean? It means that we acquire in any given rebirth, we acquire solid imprints as to what really matters. And therefore, lifetime after lifetime, relentless pursuit, lifetime after lifetime, we keep the main thing the main thing. We do not allow ourselves to go on detours that lead to a wasted life. Relentless pursuit. This is the mindfulness we require. Yeah? At every lifetime, we're mindful of what really matters. And we stay the course. No detours. What are the tragic consequences of a world that is devoid of mysticism? Are you aware? Are you aware of the tragic consequences that arise in a world divorced, totally divorced, devoid of mysticism? Well, open the eyes, open the mind, look, look, look. Loneliness, addictions, anxiety, paranoia, depression, warmongering, killing and slaughtering, violence, abuse, relationship fiascos, and obviously the systematic destruction of our planet. Brilliant stuff, isn't it? No sacred understanding of the world. Nothing is sacred. It all is about exploitation and profit making. Look at the outcome. Look at the tragic, tragic outcome. In a world divorced from life's mystical dimension, this entire gamut of suffering, this entire range of suffering is the direct consequence of not being in touch with what is true and of timeless value. Not in touch with the sacred dimension to reality. Nothing. All about materialism, profit making for this lifetime alone. But then severe consequences await us when we do that. Severe consequences. I wish I could show you those other realms. Massive suffering. Cannot even imagine it. From living in a reckless manner that brings harm to oneself and to the world around us. Severe consequences. Do you remember in a couple of classes before, I spoke about Brother Carl Jung, the Swiss psychoanalyst, world famous. What did he say about those rich and powerful beings in their middle years, in their 40s and 50s, who came to him for therapy? What did he say about these people? Do you remember? Successful people, big bucks, big homes, lovely cars, lovely this, lovely that, but depressed, miserable, suicidal. Worldly success, but emotional poverty, psychological poverty. What did he say? What he said was that amongst all those beings who came to him for therapy, the only ones he was able to help, the only ones who recovered from their malaise, were those who were ready to reconnect themselves with their spiritual roots. The others, too much intellect, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in this. He couldn't help them. They continued down the path of self-destruction. Only those he was able to reconnect with their divinity, these were the ones who found salvation. The others who refused to acknowledge their divinity or the divinity of the world around them, they suffered tragic consequences in this birth, that birth, and the one after they popped. Tragic consequences. So how can we know if we are on the high road to being a mystic? Sometimes you're already on the high road and we don't even know it. Yeah? How many of us know it? Well, let us look at 8 signs out of maybe 80,000. Okay, 80, 100. The first sign that you are on the high road to being a mystic is that you are wise enough to seek guidance from someone who is in touch with that dimension. not who's in touch with intellect, but who is already a mixed, not mistaken. Yeah. If you have the humility, if you have the wisdom to connect with someone who is intimately familiar with that dimension, you're on the high road. If you're not connecting with someone, then you're still in arrogant mode and you will live in a zombie forest for your entire life. First point. Second point, you feel a strong desire to offer the world something of value before you pop, a legacy, a memorable, value based legacy. Yeah. For all that you've enjoyed, you wish to give something back in return. Value for value. You don't live in locust mode, just consuming, but giving nothing of value back to the world. It's the second point. Third point, you feel an intense desire to connect with the source of your being, to connect with these universal forces that are in and around you at all times, but which are totally unknown to you. You want to connect, you want to know them. Yeah. Third point. Fourthly, you relish solitude. Yeah, you enjoy your own company and you enjoy the study and practice of the Dhamma. Not in snail pace, passionate. Yeah. Why? Because you are really interested in seeking the depth of things. You're not satisfied with appearances. You want to seek the depth of things. Why? Why does this happen like this? How does this work like that? Yeah. You don't just take things for granted. You don't just rely on your prejudices and opinions to go through this world. You want to know the truth. Yeah. Seek the depth of things through dedicated study and practice of the Dhamma. And this requires solitude. Not all the time, but you have to relish your company. You have to relish the time you're with yourself for deep contemplation. If you don't enjoy that, then you're not on the high road. So sorry. You're on the low road to the zombie forest. Okay, another one. You are able to sense things like I did, or like I do, yeah, outside of the confines of your everyday mind. You can sense it. This is not the right thing that's happening. This is the better road to take. Yeah. Intuitively, you sense things outside the confines of your everyday mind, your intellect. Yeah. Tuned in. Then, this is another point that you are able to just sit there, wherever you are, just be wherever you are, and marvel at the simplest things around you and see how miraculous they are. Astonishing stuff. In other words, you're able to see the hand of God in just about everything. You see the hand of God, how brilliantly the good Lord, how profoundly He manifests Himself in the world you experience around you. It's not matter, it's spirit in material form. Yeah. You're able to witness the source of your being manifesting around you in astounding ways. Relish, nothing to be bored about. Yeah, you can, oh, you just love everything. It's all good Lord expressing himself in his own wild and weird ways. Then, two more points coming up. You're also aware of the fact that there's far more to your existence than meets the eye. There's so much more about yourself that you have yet to discover. You don't take yourself for granted that this is me, this flesh and bone. No, no, no. There's more there. Intuitively, you understand that you need to explore the inner dimension. Yeah, that's where the truth arises. That's where the truth resides. And last but not least, you have cultivated the appropriate consciousness for experiencing even just a tiny glimmer of insight into the true nature of reality. You've seen things beyond the confines of your senses. You've seen another world, another dimension, profound, difficult to explain and put into words. Yep. 8 signs. Think about it. Check. How many of you can you tick and say yes, 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 yes? That's what's required for being a mystic. All right. Next point. So, how do we make sure that we get on the high road, even if we're not on it? Good news. The good news is that regardless of how materialistic we may be, regardless of how secular we may be, yeah, only believe in matter. Most of us do acknowledge the fact that there are forces, inexplicable forces all around us, which we do our best to connect with so that we can harness that energy, harness those forces to serve us. Because we realize that on our own, with the intellect alone and emotions alone, we can't get very far on this world. We need support from these inexplicable forces. Regardless of how materialistic we are, regardless of how weird we may be, we do acknowledge the fact that these forces exist. And because we acknowledge that these forces exist, regardless of how materialistic we may be, we do our best to harness their power to serve us. And how do we do that? Here's Brother Joe, Mafia Don, into helping people to rebirth before their time. Mafia, Godfather. But he goes to the church or to the synagogue or to the temple and makes sure he has donations there. Make sure that, okay, he's been living not very skillfully, but please, can you help me? Yep. Look at all the crooks in the world. All the crooks in the world, they still go to temples or Institutions that are spiritually inclined and do their best to bribe their way out of their misery, don't they? Yes, yes, yes. Many crooks in the temples. Hmm, that's one way. Doesn't work. Who can bribe? So people harness these forces either through meditation, being in nature, yeah, spiritual practices. That's how we harness these forces. How do we get on the high road to a mystical way of living? Study and practice of the Dhamma, basically. Yeah, be out in nature. It's there. Yeah, people connect, want to connect. Think of astrology. Yeah, planets, planetary forces. I've met with astrologers. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. There was one fellow who said things. I took a friend to him. He said things about her which other astrologers never did because he was tuned in, really tuned in. Looking at her chart, he said to her, "You have 3 kids." "No, I have only 2." "Nope, you have 3 kids, honey." She started to weep right there. Weep, weep, weep. "Yes, I had an abortion." How did he know that? How did he know she had 3 kids? Other astrologers never saw it. This fellow saw it. Yeah, these are forces. You tap into those forces, you're tapping into knowability. Not tapping into those forces, you're tapping into illusions. No knowing what is true and false. All right. To exceed, to exceed our expectations of what we believe to be possible in this regard, as to how do we connect. To exceed our expectations of what we believe to be possible in terms of connecting with the divine, we do need an accountability professional. What's an accountability professional? Master B, it's a big words. Called spiritual teacher. Accountability. Yeah, we are held accountable for our actions. Now, why do we need an accountability professional or a spiritual guide? Because on our own, we're faced with inertia. Don't want to change direction. No, don't want to do it. A spiritual guide, like any mentor or coach, helps us to see the value in the difficult and the uncomfortable aspects of our practice. Most people don't see the value in that. They want coffee table practice. But coffee table practice is no practice. Just watching videos, reading books, and believing you're spiritually awake. You're fooling yourself. Yeah? We have to be willing to do what we are inclined not to do. So, a spiritual teacher's role is basically to put us through the fire. Yes, yes, yes. We have to go through the fire. Why do we have to go through the fire? The uncomfortable, the scary, the paranoid? Because unless we place ourselves in risky, difficult scenarios, We never get to know our strengths. And in the absence of these risky, crazy, wild scenarios of the practice, we never get to refine our consciousness to the point where we are able to perceive things outside of the intellect. Our consciousness remains dull. We have to go through the fire. Look at the guys around you, those gurus who've done a few classes and now they're ready to teach. They've not even experienced one tiny flame. There is no real understanding of life. There is no mystical dimension. Blind leading the blind. Plenty of them out there. I've met with hundreds of them. It's crazy. Unless we allow ourselves to do what we are resistant towards doing, to do what we are afraid of doing, there is no practice. None. Yeah. Do you have any idea how many times I was scared out of my wits in the things I've done? Totally paranoid? Woo. Did I let it stop me? Nope. You have to go through those crazy scenarios. It is imperative. Only then do we have the consciousness that is primed for awakening. Easy practice is no practice. None. Wake up. Please understand that we do not discover new realities by following established paths. Yeah? We do not discover new places, new realities by following established pathways. Nor do we gain access to new levels of awareness for as long as we cling to set ways of thinking and behavior, preconditioned. Yeah, we cannot access new levels of awareness, joy, love, and laughter, which comes from that, for as long as we adhere to, cling to set ways of thinking and behavior. We need another set of behavioral tools and skill sets. To craft an exceptional life, please understand, to craft an exceptional life that is of great value to us and to the world around us, we have to open our heart and mind towards exploring the unknown dimensions to ourselves. We need to journey within to explore the unknown dimensions to ourselves, because this is where the mystery of creation sparkles in its tremendous glory. Nowhere else. You won't find it out there. You will find the mystery of creation in here. You are the creation. You're not separate from the universe. But the only way to access this awareness, this endless knowability, you need to journey within. Go through the fire. The demons you have to grapple with in your mind. To wake up. Yep, a lot of garbage in there. A lot of fear, doubts, insecurities. You have to go through that fire. Come out on the other side in full possession of your strengths. Did you get that? Okay. So we're talking about right to mindfulness. Why is it called right mindfulness? It's called right because it dispels, yeah, it eradicates, dispels the falsifying influences that entangle us in thoughts and behavior patterns that keep us totally estranged from the truth about ourselves and the world we live in. Got that? Say it again. Right mindfulness is called right because it has this power. It's the faculty that allows us to see through the falsifying influences that keep us shackled to ways of being that are not serving us, shackled to ways of beings that prevent us from knowing our magnificence. That's why it's called right mindfulness, being aware, being conscious, being present to those falsifying influences and not getting seduced by them. What are these falsifying influences? When we allow ourselves to be influenced, by the outer world, yeah, we allow the outer world to determine how we think and behave, we're under the spell of falsifying influences. I've said it in many classes. I will say it again. The outer world is illusory, is extremely illusory. We practice the Dhamma to go beyond these illusions, to see things correctly with a different faculty, not this faculty. Let me say it again. When we allow ourselves to be influenced by the outer world as to how we think and how we behave, how we approach and respond to life, we're under the intoxicating spell of falsifying influences. Here are some examples. How do most people view challenges? Yeah, here comes a challenge. How do you view it? Happily? Joyfully? Yoo-hoo! Another challenge. Let's go, boys. Nope. Allowing the outer reality to determine how we think and behave. We view challenges as something to avoid. The majority of people do not like challenges. They resist them. They deny them. They try to hide from them. But they do not embrace them. Why? Falsifying influences. We believe challenges are something we don't want. Whereas challenges, as I've said before, are life's invitations to perfect ourselves, to purge ourselves of the wrongdoing that has come to us for correction. Yep. We need to face and dissolve these challenges so that they don't recur again and again in different forms. So instead of subscribing to sound principles to guide our behavior, our thinking and behavior, instead of subscribing to sound principles as based on the Dhamma, we allow this everyday mind to lead us astray. Falsifying influences. Another one. How many people do you know, including yourself, who have a really healthy self image? Not those who, I'm not talking about the arrogant fellows. I'm hot stuff. No, healthy self image. Yeah. Healthy self image implies the willingness to acknowledge the fact that there's lots to learn, there's lots to grow, lots to learn. Humility. Yeah. Not arrogance. Acknowledging the fact that there's lots to learn and you are capable of learning it. You are capable of reaching those levels of endless knowabilities of awaiting you. Negative self image, low self image, diminished self image, countless beings out there, the rich and the poor, the powerful and the not powerful, all low self image. Why? Falsifying influences. Oh, wrinkles, hair gone. I'm not beautiful anymore. Botox. Yeah, Botox. Weird thing we do. Wear the wig, get the operations. Terrible, terrible. Self image, suffering, falsifying influences, identifying with what you should not be identifying with. This is already going to be aging. But your spirit, birthless, deathless, beyond any flaw. But we don't identify with it because there's no venturing within. Falsifying influences, tragic consequences. Then, of course, the habit of criticizing and complaining and judging and resenting. All those negative states arise when people and circumstances do not meet our preferences. Falsifying influences. We believe that's the only way to respond to life when it does not match our preferences. Is it really? Is it serving you? Think of the illnesses you're producing in yourself when you're constantly in that negative loop. All those psychosomatic illnesses arise from allowing yourself to respond to life in a manner where you should never respond to life. Devastating consequences. And the fourth point, before we move on, believing that material prosperity equates with true flourishing. It does not. Brother Carl and others like him and wise people through the ages have said it to us that material prosperity does not equate with flourishing. A refined consciousness equates with true flourishing, not material prosperity. Falsifying influences. And so people don't have time for refining themselves. They rely on material prosperity to be happy in the world. Are they really happy? Not really. Okay, right mindfulness. I was in Geneva in the 1900s. I was teaching in Europe. In the 1900s, I was in Geneva at a retreat. I think it was a 10-day retreat. And I was talking about the importance of right mindfulness. When you're brushing your teeth, be present. When you're doing this, be present. When you're this, be present, and so forth. Yeah, I give full class on all right of mindfulness. But then later on, the next day, a couple of students came up to me and said, you know, you talked about right mindfulness yesterday, but this girl didn't quite understand what you said. Could you please have a word with her? This is because during retreats, the students are assigned different tasks to keep the retreat going. No servants, everyone volunteers. Today you will do kitchen work. Tomorrow you do gardening. Then you do cleaning. Each one has their roster. Yeah. So I said, sure, I'll give her a shot. So I called that lovely girl and I said to her, darling, yesterday I spoke about mindfulness, and today I'm getting some complaints about your being not very mindful in the kitchen. And she said to me, Master B, you didn't mention kitchen yesterday. You said brushing the teeth and this and that. You didn't mention kitchen, Master B. I was totally amazed at the way she interpreted my teaching, or the good Lord's teaching. Yeah. I didn't mention the kitchen. You wanted me to mention 1,000 different things about mindfulness? Oh, that's how unconscious people are. Didn't mention the kitchen. So I could be unmindful in the kitchen, but I'll be mindful brushing my teeth. How are people practicing the Dhamma? Crazy, totally crazy. Here's another example of totally crazy. Our man Sam was a rich, wealthy businessman, traveled a lot, making deals, acquiring lots of money. And he bought himself a large property, the beautiful home in the middle of it. Yeah, lovely acreage. And his vision for that property was to have this beautiful garden, beautiful garden. But he was a busy businessman. Now, fortunately for him, he had a friend, a good friend, who was a landscape designer. He knew about gardens, he knew about landscaping property. And so he enlisted his friend to set up his garden. But he said to his friend, look, I'm a busy fellow. I have no time to look after my garden. So I want you to get these automatic sprinklers and anything automatic to look after my garden. Yeah. I'm ready to pay the price. Just find all the gadgets to keep my garden in super shape. And he blabbed on for about half an hour as to what he wanted. His friend very patiently listened to him. After all the blabbing, his friend said to him, look, Brother Sam, I can acknowledge the fact that you're a busy man and that you have all the money in the world to spend on these gadgets. There's one thing you need to consider if you really want a good garden. Oh, yeah? What's that? If there's no gardener, Brother Sam, if there's no gardener, there is no garden. Those sprinklers are not going to get the garden in shape. Those other gadgets are not going to keep the garden in shape. Without a gardener, there can be no garden. It didn't occur to him. All that money, all that intelligence, but when it comes to a practical living, like that girl, no awareness. Crazy. Similar. If there's no teacher, if there's no accountability professional, there is no practice. None. no can do. Watching videos, reading books, no teacher, zero practice. Trust me, I've seen it happen 100 times. Okay, let's look at a few more. Falsifying influences, shall we? Right, mindfulness makes us aware, acutely aware, that information equates with gathering. Yeah. Whereas wisdom, what does wisdom equate with? Wisdom equates with putting life into, breathing life into the information we gather by integrating it, blending it into experiences that lead to a flourishing life. Two totally different realities. Are you understanding? Through right mindfulness, we awaken to the fact that information is simply gathering, whereas wisdom can only arise when that information is integrated or blended into life experiences that lead to a well-lived life. Okay? The map is not the territory. Map different, territory different. Information, only the meal. Wisdom, information is only the menu. Wisdom is the meal. Difference. You don't want to be chewing the menu. Meal is different, menu is different. And yet, countless people on the planet mistake information to be wisdom. It is not wisdom. To be wise, we have to breathe life into the information we collect, because the joy is not in the collection of information. The joy is in the conversion of it. It's in the conversion of it into a life well lived. If it is not converted into a life well lived, that information is virtually useless. It's just intellectual garbage. Are you understanding? No watching videos and no reading books without application. Zero. The map is not the territory. The menu is not the meal. Stop mistaking things wrongly. Falsifying influences. So, for us to blend the information we gather into a well-considered life, it's imperative for us to question the validity of our verdicts every single day. What did I just say? Stop getting seduced by your prejudices and opinions. To really blend or integrate information into a well-lived life, we need to every single day question the validity of our verdicts or opinions or prejudices, especially the verdicts we have in regarding to our self-image. Because for most of us, our self-image is not on the level it needs to be. To perceive ourselves in the right light and not in some distorted fashion, it's important for us to ask ourselves, who am I or what am I in the eyes of God? Not in your eyes, not in these flawed vision of yourself, this distorted, diminishing vision of yourself. We need to ask ourselves every single day, what am I really in the eyes of God? Am I this little clump of flesh and blood? No, you are the universe. We need to question the validity of our verdicts, especially in relation to our self-image, how we perceive ourselves. Because if we do not perceive ourselves correctly, how can we possibly experience life at its best? If we don't really value ourselves, why would you want to venture into the unknown? There's only garbage there then. Thing is, we too easily, very easily, and very permanently dismiss something very real as being impossible to believe. Yeah? We dismiss that. No second thought on the verdicts, on the opinions, no second thought. Too easily and too permanently dismiss something absolutely real as being impossible to believe. The thing is, false conclusions often lead to disastrous consequences. Yeah? False conclusions often lead to disastrous consequences. What am I pointing at? A diminished form of living is the inevitable consequence of dismissing our magnificence as something impossible to believe. I'm not magnificent. I've made so many mistakes. I haven't reached my objectives. I'm so weird. I'm a loser. How can we possibly experience great health and joy and beautiful relationships when our self-image is flawed? And that too extremely flawed. Stop dismissing what is true in favor of what is false. And this kind of living, this terribly unskillful form of living arises from mistaking subjective opinion as being absolute truth. That's the problem. Falsifying influences, believing subjective opinion to being objective fact. I'm not pretty. I'm not intelligent. I'm not good enough. That's a subjective opinion. It's not objective facts. Wakey, wakey. The immense value in being totally mindful of how we live is that we learn to observe ourselves and the world around us from a higher vantage point. The vantage point of a mystic, not the vantage point of the mistaken. Yeah? From the vantage point of a mystic, we no longer live to find happiness. We live to express it because we no longer look for happiness. We're living from it, from happiness, not looking for it. We're in it, marinated in it, from the fountainhead of the joy and the love and the glory that shines in us. That is seeing things from the right perspective. So when we really evaluate spiritual practice, the great value in spiritual practice is seen in how mindfully we live. Yeah. And mindfulness, therefore, has no rival. When it comes to spiritual practice, the absence of mindfulness, there is no practice. If we cannot discern right from wrong, true from false, skillful from unskillful, we are living in the zombie forest. To live from inside life's mystery, we have to be present to ourselves. Right mindfulness helps us to dispel the falsifying influences that lead to behavior patterns that are not serving us. Yeah. Wakey, wakey. Thank you for listening. Kindly look for an accountability professional. Practice without coach is a no practice. I'm sorry. Over and out. Keep rocking.